Hi, Bill Chapman again with our weekly CBA video, and I'm lucky enough to have Representative Steve Stafstrom with us today. Steve is from beautiful downtown Bridgeport. He's been a rep for how long now?
5 years.
5 years. He's one of these guys who came in mid-session and took him away from the young lawyers section as the government relations guy. And we've just 5 years, and he's already the chair now. This is his second year of chairing Judiciary, which is really it's one of the top jobs up here, and probably Judiciary. Obviously, we have our own prejudices, but we think that it's the most important and the busiest and the most time-intensive and stressful committee for any legislator who takes his job seriously. This is where everything either starts from or it gets referred to, and Steve's the guy in the house. And you surviving?
Yeah, we're off to a good start to the session. We're about a month or so into a short legislative session, so this is kind of the time that most committees, including the Judiciary Committee, have decided which bills to raise and start doing public hearings on for the session. Every year, Judiciary gets probably more bills sent to it than just about any committee in the building, because of our cognizance as a committee. You know, we have broad cognizance over any issue involving the court system or constitutional law, the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, the prison system. Certainly anything that changes a criminal penalty or a significant civil fine, and so in that respect, we can be sort of a catch-all committee in the building where a lot of bills end up coming to us, and we have kind of the unenviable task this time of year of deciding which of the various very important and oftentimes consequential bills we can and can't take up for public hearing. We're about to move into kind of the main public hearing process. We'll have between 8 and 10 kind of subject matter intensive public hearings. We try to lump bills as much as we can. So next week on Monday, we'll be beginning with the public hearing on the governor's cannabis legalization bill. So that'll be Monday, and then Wednesday we move into hearing on kind of some labor type bills, kind of the captive audience. We're dealing with Parentage Act next, which is Bar Association's working on next Friday. So we're getting into some real substantive stuff, particularly next week as we jump in full freight here.
Because you've already had three public hearings. Two of them had to do with the judges, because that's another thing that you have to do every single year is the renomination of the judges, and that has to be done in a timely fashion. Because of expiration dates for certain judges.
One of the things people sometimes don't realize about Connecticut as opposed to the federal system is we don't have a Senate Judiciary Committee and a House Judiciary Committee. So when you say I'm the co-chair, I co-chair with my Senate colleague, Senator Winfield. But the committees in Connecticut meet jointly. So there's representatives and senators sitting on the same committee as opposed to Congress where you have a Senate Judiciary Committee and a House Judiciary Committee. So for judicial confirmations, judicial nominations, those go through the Joint Committee on Judiciary. So it's both senators and House members that are sitting on that committee. And again, unlike the federal system where judges serve for life, in Connecticut they serve an 8-year term. And then at the end of their 8 years, they need to be reappointed by the governor, and if he does so, or renominated by the governor, and then if he does so, then reconfirmed by the Judiciary Committee, and then on to the full legislature.
Right. No, we know that previously it's been quoted that maybe this year 30% of the bills that tried to get raised got raised. What is the screening process for those who are actually interested?
So the way it works is we get proposals, concepts from a variety of places. We get them certainly from other legislators who either are on the Judiciary Committee or not on the Judiciary Committee. We get them from obvious interest groups. Certainly the CBA sends us a list of bills every year that they'd like us to hear.
Fully drafted.
Fully drafted, which we appreciate. We get them from, sort of newspaper articles or current events of things that are happening out there. And then we, the leadership of the committee, which constitutes myself as the co-chair for the House, Senator Winfield, who's from New Haven, who's the co-chair for the Senate, Representative Rabimbus, who is the ranking member in the House, and Senator Kissel, who's the ranking member in the Senate, lead Republican in the Senate. The four of us kind of get in a conference room with sort of staff and policy folks and the LCO attorneys who actually draft the bills, and we look at all the various concepts that have come in and who's proposed them, and we try to prioritize, and we try to look at, is this a topic that was recently discussed last year, and if so, maybe it can wait another year. Is this a bill that has an actual likelihood of becoming law this year or not? Kind of who's pushing it and how big of a priority it is based on, that group put in 8 bills this year. We can't do 8 bills in a short session. So, what are the top 2 that seem to make the most sense to us? And then sometimes what we do is try to group bills together. So this year, for whatever reason, we seem to have gotten 3 or 4 or 5 proposals on human trafficking. And so what we'll do is we'll look at how those bills kind of overlap or don't, and how we can mesh them together into kind of one human trafficking bill as opposed to, 5 individual standalone bills.
Plus, something that takes up an awful lot of work is just claims. Who's and how do you work that? Because you probably have 70 claims that you have to deal with, or maybe more this year.
Yeah, so obviously the way sovereign immunity works in the state is, you can't just walk in and sue the state. You have to go through the claims commission process. And the Judiciary Committee actually works kind of as the appellate court for the claims commission in a way. You go to her, if she gives you a right to sue, then you can go off to Superior Court and continue with your claim. If she denies your right to sue the state for whatever reason, you can take that issue up with the Judiciary Committee. And what we do is we hold a public hearing, generally all on the same day. Folks come in and say, the claims commissioner didn't get it right, and here's why. We have a group of legal interns. We're fortunate to have folks both from the UConn and Quinnipiac Law School who spend kind of the semester with us, and they look through the decisions and look at the legal reasoning and kind of present back to the chairs memos of, here's a weakness in this one or not, and then based on the research that we get from the legal interns and what we hear at the public hearing, we decide whether we should affirm the decision of the Claims Commission or consider overturning it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Steve's a Fairfield Stag, which he takes great pride in,
That's
and
right.
he still lives there part-time, most likely. He's also a principal with member, whatever the
Whatever it is. Something.
Pullman.
Pullman
Whatever.
Cumley, yep.
He works at Pullman, and we thank his boss very much for letting him spend so much time here. If you're with a firm and you can talk to your boss, I think it's almost like some pro bono.
We need more lawyers up here. We have the least number of lawyers we've had in a very long time in the General Assembly, and particularly on the Judiciary Committee. We actually have a majority of non-lawyers on the Judiciary Committee right now. So if you're a lawyer out there thinking about running for office this fall, come on up and join us. We could use a couple more.
Yeah, please talk to Steve or talk to one of your other local legislators. And luckily, he has 3 women at home who give him support to let him spend some time away from them. So we appreciate that. Steve, thanks again. Okay.
Thank you.
See ya.